Hey, good morning to everybody. Merry Christmas. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early, man. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, I already downloaded my video for today, my Christmas video, and I was going about my routine here, getting ready for my own Christmas with my family. And I almost forgot. Every Christmas, I do a video, or every holiday, I'll talk about my worst, like my worst Christmas ever, or my worst Thanksgiving ever back when I was using. Uh, the purpose of this is to emphasize that recovery is possible. I've been clean and sober since October 23rd of 2006, over 18 years and 3 months completely clean and sober. And as you're about to hear, as you're about to witness yourselves, as I describe what my life used to be like, I can't emphasize how much better my life is right now. As I was kind of going over my notes this morning, talking about how bad, what my life was actually like back then, it shocks me every time I think about it. The hell that I lived every single day, that I put myself through the disease of addiction. Okay, this was 1997. I was a Teamster truck driver. Back then, I believe I was making about about $14 an hour. Okay, this is 1997. It was about $550 a week, I think, with overtime I'd bring home. Now, if I did the calculations, and in today's dollars, that would be almost $1,100 a week. It would be $1,081 per week I was making back then. So it was good money. It was like, it was in the higher brackets of what everybody was earning at that time. But even though I was making that much money, my rent was way overdue. I would only pay little bits of I'd give like my landlord $100 a week or something like that. My electricity was shut off, and I live in Connecticut, and it's like 10 or 20 degrees on average throughout the winter. My electricity was shut off throughout the whole winter. I had a little heater that I used, and I was on the third floor, so that helped with the heat. I had no cable. I had no car. My car got impounded. I had no phone whatsoever. To make phone calls, there was no cell phones back then. I had to walk up to a payphone about a half mile away up on Main Street to use the phone or to call my dealer. The only thing that was on was the electricity, and it was barely hanging on. I still made it to work every day. I was a Teamster, like I said, a Teamster truck driver. I eventually ended up getting drug tested one morning, and I lost that job too. Okay, so this was a Thursday. Christmas fell, I believe, it was on a Thursday. And every single week, I would spend my entire check. As soon as I got it, that $550 would be pretty much gone the next day. I might, take $100 to pay for rent, to put towards rent, or like $30 for food, because I knew that I wouldn't have any money the next day. And the rest of it would be spent on rock. That's what I was using back then. I hadn't even begun being cross-addicted and using opiates at that time. My addiction hadn't even reached that stage. This was just when I was smoking rock. Of course, I hadn't done any Christmas shopping. I kept putting it off every week, like I said, and I'd blow my entire paycheck except for some cans of food and a little money towards rent so I wouldn't get kicked out, and that was it. And like I said, I was making good money. The people around me were buying houses and cars and, living, supporting their families. My family, I guess they were in denial. I lied to them, and they believed it, or tried to believe it, because they didn't want to acknowledge, I think, how bad it was. Okay, so this is Christmas Eve. Like I said, I didn't have a car. I finished up work. I managed to cash my check while I was driving my truck that day. I went back, got my check, ran to the bank with my work truck, cashed my check, went back to the building, and I got out of work. And my plan was to go buy Christmas presents. So this was in a busy shopping. There's a bunch of shopping centers on the street where I worked. So I walked up the street to I think it was like a Kmart. There was a bunch of stores, G Fox and all that. And they were ridiculously busy. I walk in and there's lines, and all I'm thinking about is scoring. Is going, because it was a Thursday, it was payday. And I'm just antsy. I just want to go get my stuff, and get on the bus, go home and get my stuff. And I was in that store probably not even 3 minutes. And I turned around and I just said, screw this. I don't even know what my plan was. You know, it was like 4 or 5 o'clock, Christmas Eve, late afternoon, and I had no presents. My family knew I had a good paying job and all that. And I'm not even sure. I don't even remember what I told myself. I walked out of the store. I got on the bus. I went, got dropped off at a bar up the street, went right to the payphone, called up my dealer. But there's more to this, actually. I've kind of forgotten one of the main parts here. When I was on the bus going back to my house after not buying my presents, there was a girl I recognized, a woman I was probably about 35 years old. And there was a woman that I recognized from school, about 30 years old, very skinny, missing teeth, just like me. All of her teeth were rotted out. And we started talking, you know, because we both smoked rock. It turns out I had all her presents for all her nieces and nephews and her daughter. And she had unwrapped them Christmas Eve. She had already bought them all and wrapped them. She unwrapped them, put them all in bags, and brought them all back to the store and returned them all. The presents she already bought for all of her nieces, nephews, and her daughter. And got the money because she wanted to get high. And that's who I was on the bus with on the way home. And we start forming a plan. And I basically, long story short, we go back to my apartment and we spend the entire night from 6 p.m. till at least 3 a.m. in the morning, smoking rock, just more and more and more. And this is the thing, I've talked about this before. You know, I always had, you know, it's a woman that's also smoking rock about my age, single. And you get the idea of sex, but it never happens because the drug is more important. And it didn't happen. You know, there might have been some flirting and some flashing and stuff like that, but it was all about the drugs. By about 3 a.m., I had gone through all my money. She'd gone through all her money. It was Christmas morning, and I had no presents, and all of a sudden reality was starting to hit me. Of course, you know, the money and everything was gone. She left. She walked out the door. She lived up the street a little ways. And I was all by myself Christmas morning, you know, realizing what I had done. My family was expecting me at about 11 a.m. that morning. I called them up. And I can't remember exactly the lie I made up to my mother, my family. You know, they knew. Like I said, it was like making $1,100 a week right now. And you know, they knew my rent wasn't paid. I didn't have a car. My car was impounded. My phone was shut off. And I had just got paid a few hours earlier, and I had no money and no presents. So I called up my family, and I said, I can't possibly come over. I can't come over. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so ashamed. I have no presents. I have nothing. Like I said, I'm not even sure. I don't think I even lied because there was nothing I could say. I know I didn't say I was robbed because I had used that excuse before, that I had gotten robbed or jumped or something like that. And I had used that excuse, but not that. I think I just kind of skipped around the obvious. My family insisted that I go over there. You know, no, we don't care. Just come over. So I gathered some like hardcover books. I had gathered up presents that I had gotten the years before, stuff I hadn't pawned yet. Brought it over as gifts. Like, oh, here's a Stephen King novel from 5 years ago. Not, you know, it's not wrapped or anything. It's dirty, stained. Here's my present for you. Here's a hat for you, you know, that I've had for 10 years that I was wearing. It was, you know, as I thought about this, every year I think about this, and it's so shameful and embarrassing. And like I said, my heat was shut off, my cable, everything was shut off, no car, and I was making really good money. You know, the hell that I was putting myself through. And my family, you know, they didn't care about the presents. You know, they didn't care about that at all. They just wanted me to be there. But looking back, I could see now how much it hurt them to see what I was doing to myself. You know, they tried to smile and they were glad I was there, that I actually made it there. And they overlooked the fact that I didn't have any money or any presents, and they overlooked that. But I could see the pain in their faces and their eyes looking at me, you know, and just seeing what I was doing to myself, you know, the shame that I was feeling. And I could see now, I could realize now how much that hurt them looking at me, but most of all, they just want to be there. I'm sure there's other people out there that have, what you would call worse stories where, somebody was lost their life or was in the hospital or in jail or whatever like that. But this is what I would consider my worst Christmas. What I was doing to myself, the hell that I was putting myself through, working all week. And like I said, I eventually got fired. I lost the job, and it was a great Teamster truck driving job, a great job. And I got fired from the next job. I was there at the next job for 3 weeks, got drug tested, and I couldn't even stay clean for 3 days to pass the drug test for the next job I went to. Recovery is possible. I've been clean and sober for 18 years now, and it's been the best years of my life. And thank God I get to enjoy my family, those same people today. And I see the look on their faces today, and they're so happy and grateful that I am clean now. I mean, that's all they ever wanted, more than anything else, more than any presents or whatever, is me getting my soul back. And and they've been given that, and I've been given that, and it is possible. Recovery is possible. You guys have a great Christmas.